hand over your eyes. I open my eyes to see the spiritual truth today. And over your ears, I open my ears to hear the spiritual truth today. Now, if you put your hand over your heart and extend out your arms, I open my heart to receive the spiritual truth today. The spiritual truth that I'm working with today is that we live in an unlimited universe. We live in an unlimited universe. Now, the reason I chose that is because I want to talk today about generosity. I want to spend some time exploring how we can become more generous in our spirit. This is not a how to give talk. This is not a fundraising talk. Everybody understands, and we all know how to give. We've just finished a big gift-giving season, haven't we? And some of us have given with a generous heart, and some of us have given with a guilty heart, and some of us have given with an obligated heart. But we've finished this gift-giving season. But today it's not about gift-giving. It's about being generous, not about doing generous things. I want us to begin to look at generosity not like a coat that we take on and off, but rather like a skin that we protect from the rays, any negative rays. Begin to look at generosity as a spirit that is within us. So, again, I'm not trying to get you to do anything today. You can relax. I'm not going to ask you for any money. Maybe another day, but not today. When I talk about generosity, I'm not going to do that. I'm really talking about our theme. Our theme is think it, speak it, be it. We're all in this together. We're all in this together. And that's important for us to keep kind of firm before us this whole year. And we're going to be looking at one of the things we want to be is generous, because that's what God is. God is generosity. God is generous. And we know that we are simply representations of that presence on this planet. So I want to talk about that. Now, I know how we all are. I'm that way too. Somebody even implies that I'm not something, then my mind goes to all the times I was. You know, your husband, your wife, your partner, your spouse might have said, you need to help around the house a little more. And right away you think, well, I emptied the dishwasher. Was 2014, but I did empty the dishwasher, You went to the store and I emptied the dishwasher. I help. Or you might go up to the meanest person in the world and say, you're mean. And all of a sudden they're thinking of all the kind things they've ever done in their life. That's just how we are. So I want us to be able to sort of relax our defenses here as I talk about this idea of how to become more generous. And again, I know some of you are thinking, what, are you kidding me? I tithe. I bought a plaque on one of the backs of these chairs. I played in your golf tournament. I, dissolved it. I've done everything. And in truth, you have. You are the most giving congregation on the planet. You are fabulous. Yes, you are. We would not be here today, and we would not be sharing our bounty with other people if you weren't as generous as you are. So I'm not talking about my gratitude. My gratitude for you is just unbelievable for everything you've done in the past, everything you're doing today, and everything you're going to do in the future. Know this. I am very, very grateful for your generosity. But I'm not talking about generous acts today. I'm talking about developing a generous spirit. Because here's the thing. Most of us give as a result of something. Either somebody did a sales pitch, somebody asked us for money, or some inspiration, or some guilt. That's when we give money. I'm talking about us developing such a generous spirit that we're looking not only for money, but for time in our heart as well. So a generous spirit, generosity itself, actually transcends any transactions. It transcends the inspirational speech or the definite need in our life. See, when you live a generous spirit, you begin to develop and design your whole life and order your whole life around generosity. And when you do that, you're going to give more of yourself. And that's what the world needs. That's what the world needs, is more of who you are, more of yourself. And in that, you will be happier. You will be happier. And see, we all know that because Have you ever met an unhappy person who is generous? No. You meet happy people, they're generous people in our lives. See, we want the generous spirit to become a keystone habit so that it trickles down into everything that we do. But here's the thing. We have to keep reminding ourselves to be of generous spirit because it doesn't come naturally. It doesn't seem to come naturally. Of course, being generous comes naturally, but living a generous spirit doesn't seem to come naturally. You know that when those of you who have kids or when you were a kid, you knew that your kids had to be taught how to share because they wanted to keep their own toys. Well, guess what? As adults, we've developed that too. We like to keep our own toys when we're adults. You know, we think, my God, I worked hard for this. It's mine. I want to have it. It's not anybody else's. We have to remind ourselves. We have to remind ourselves that we live in an unlimited universe. And that's the key to generosity, is understanding that we live in an unlimited universe. I want to talk about a couple of myths about generosity. The first myth is that it's determined by your cash flow or the amount of time you have, discretionary time you have in your life. You know, I got paid today, so I can be generous. Or I'm not going to get paid till next month, so I can't be generous right now. That's not the kind of generosity we're talking about. Everybody can be generous because we live in an unlimited universe in our life. The second myth is that it's somehow designed around the amount of money or the amount of time that you have. See, it has very little to do with the zeros behind a number. In Luke 38, we're reminded that give and it will be given back to you in good measure, pressed down, shaken, run over, and put into your lap. For with the measure that you give, it will be the measure that you receive. And that's important for us as metaphysicians to understand because the word measure for us metaphysically means the attitude. The attitude that you have is the attitude it will come back with. Your generous spirit is all your generous transactions must be accommodated with a generous attitude in our life. There was what are the people who go study other cultures? What are they called? Anthropologist. There was an anthropologist who went to Africa and studied a tribe. And what he did was he took a group of children from the tribe and he took them away from a tree and he lined them all up about 20 feet away from a tree. And then he got a big bowl of fruit, fresh fruit, and he put it at the base of the tree. And he said, now I'm going to count to 3, and the first kid who gets to the fruit gets all the fruit. He said 1, 2, 3, and they all held hands. And they began to run together, holding hands, to the base of the tree. And they all circled the tree, holding hands, and ate the fruit. And when the anthropologist came and said, well, why did you do this? Why didn't you just run to the fruit? And the first kid would have had all the fruit. They said, that is not Ubuntu. And he said, what is Ubuntu? The kid said, Ubuntu is when we understand that when one of us is happy, all of us are happy. And when one of us is sad, all of us are sad. Nobody here wanted to be sad. See how important it is for us to teach and remind ourselves of this thing called generosity because that's where our happiness is. See, a generous person looks for ways to spread generosity. And they're all over. Believe me, they are all over, and very few of them rely on what is in your bank account. Very few of them. All of us have either been a mother or gone to a store, and we've seen a mother totally frazzled at the grocery store with her kids, acting out, and she's trying to do business. Once my child, when she was 2, I lived in Santa Rosa, and there was a store called Food for Less. And the thing about Food for Less is you have to bag your own groceries. And so I had all the groceries for the week in the thing, and I had my 2-year-old. It was a summertime, and she was hot. So she took all of her clothes off. Well, the conveyor belt's going and the groceries are coming and the line is behind me a mile long. People want to get their groceries bagged up and gone. And I take her and I very firmly put her shirt on her and there was a big row of dog food, those 50-pound dog food bags by the check counter. And so I put her on the dog food and I said, "Don't you move." And she was mad because she was hot. She wouldn't take off her shirt. But I had to get these groceries into the bag. And so she takes her little finger and she works it into the bag of dog food. And she gets the kibbles and she starts throwing them at people as they're walking by. And there was a man who came by, a young guy, so sweet. And he could see what was happening. And I was like sweating myself by this time and red-faced and furious. And he could see what was happening. And he sat down in the next bag of dog food with her. And he started to talk to her. He said, "That's not very nice. Let's not do that." And he kind of engaged her in conversation so that I could do my work and get the heck out of that store. See, that was a generous spirit. We can do those things every day if we start to look for them because we're in all in this together. Our theme for the mothership is creating a world that works for everyone. When we create a world that works for everyone, we've got to begin to understand who it is and how we can help with one another in our life. So what is the definition of generosity? It is this. It is a state of being which understands day in and day out that we live in an unlimited universe, not dependent on any externals. Day in and day out. That we understand, and we keep firm before us that we live in an unlimited universe in our lives. See, it's not dependent on where the market is or how much time you have. It's dependent on what it is that's in your heart. Jesus said this. He said, "It is more blessed to give than to receive." Now, you remember when we did our series on the Beatitudes, we learned that the word blessed simply means happy. In the Aramaic, the language of Jesus, it simply means happy. Happy are those who know to give before receiving in our lives. Today, we begin to look and find out ways in which we can do that in our lives. Now, again, I'm not talking about acts of giving. I'm talking about understanding that happy is the person who is a giver rather than a receiver. So we look for Jesus for help. We also look for Buddha for help on how to do this in our lives. Many of you are familiar with the Four Noble Truths. Well, the second noble truth is that all suffering is from attachment. Attachment is the source of all suffering. That's what he says in his life. Well, see, if we can begin to be of generous spirit, we begin to be less attached to things in our life and even control over our time. Even control over our time when we understand that we live in an unlimited universe. See, truly generous-spirited people, they begin to understand that everything in our life doesn't belong to us. It's under our care. It's under our care. There are indigenous peoples for whom the whole idea of owning land is totally preposterous. And the benefit of them not being attached. So they use the land when it's under their care, and when it's no longer under their care, they simply move on. But with us, we have property, and when we lose our property, we are spent with shame and blame and anger at somebody else. We don't simply say, while it was in my care, I enjoyed it, and now it's in somebody else's care, and I'm going to move on and be happy somewhere else. A generous spirit knows how to move on and be somewhere else in our lives. See, if you lose a love, and some of us have lost love, probably everybody in this room has lost love at one time, but a generous spirited person knows that wherever that love came from, it can come again. But it's not going to be attracted to an angry person. is not going to be attracted to a bitter person. It's going to be attracted to a person who's filled with love. If you lose your house, the next house will come quicker to you if you have simply gratitude for that house you lived in, not anger that you don't have it anymore. See, generous spirited people aren't restricted people. They're not all bunched up with pursed lips and furry eyebrows and all judgmental, and they're generous. They make room at the table of life for everybody. People who look like them, people who talk like them, people who dress like them, and people who don't. People who don't love like them and people who do love like them. People who sound like them and people who don't sound like them in their lives. See, we live in when you get that, you understand you live in an unlimited universe. There's enough space for everybody to be everybody who they want to be. Now, here's the thing. I want us to know that we are an authentic church here. And authenticity means that we speak this. It may take a minute. It may take a minute for you to give space to every single person on the planet. That's our goal. We can't ever forget it. But we can't beat ourselves up either in the process of not getting it. Okay? We're a very diverse church here. Very diverse. When I first started this church, I had 6 people in my foundations class. And we couldn't afford a room, so we rented barely a closet. It was so tiny. So they were about right here where the bottom step was, and I was right here equal to them. And I was teaching, and I had 6 students. One of those students came to us the second week, wasn't there the first week, came the second week, and she had 3 rings in her tongue. And so I had set my intention for a diverse church. I had set my intention for welcoming everybody and being authentically welcoming. But I'm telling you, I could barely pay attention. I could barely, every time I pray, every time before class I pray, please don't let this child ask a question. Please don't. Because I didn't want to see the rings go up and down. And every time they go up and down with their tongue, I'd go brain dead. Ernest Holmes, I know he's a guy somewhere, but I don't know. But because we're a diverse church, we stick it out with one another. We keep it up. By the end of 10 weeks, I loved this kid. I was happy to see her rings flopping up and down. It didn't bother me one little bit. And that's important for us. It's important for us. You know, we want people in this church to be authentically who they are. You don't have to come here and be what the dominant culture says you have to be. You know, I want gay people to be here and be gay. I've had people come to me and say, could you please ask them to not hold hands? I don't care if they're gay, but do they have to hold hands? We want to hold hands? Hold hands. See? It's a process, but we're in this process because we believe in an unlimited universe and we're working on generous spirits. I'm going to tell you, the way I learned how to pray was, Hail Mary, full of grace, the Lord is with thee. So when Azana gets up here, the first time Azana came up here, I'm thinking, oh my God, what is that? There you are, my sister. But you see, you stick with it, and now she touches my heart in such a deep, deep way. Because you stick with it. You stick with it. So the next time that you feel like you're in unfamiliar territory, then you want to ask yourself, have I lost touch with this notion that I live in an unlimited universe and there's enough for everybody, enough space for everybody to be authentically who they are? Ask yourself today, where can I be generous this week? Look around. Find somebody that you can express a generous spirit to. Maybe it's in your workplace. Maybe somebody's scared about their job. Maybe somebody's not feeling well about their teenager. Whatever it is, express your generous spirit with them. Because it's your legacy. You know, that guy who sat on that dog food with me, that was his legacy to me. I will never forget him as long as I live. You know, Paul, when he was leaving Ephesus, when he was talking to the Ephesians, he was leaving, and he knew he was leaving for probably death and certainly prison. And he knew that he had one chance to say something to them. He wanted to leave a legacy as his last words to the Ephesians. And as he was walking off, he said, remember, it is more blessed to give than to receive. That will be your legacy. Let's take this message into prayer. Knowing that there is only one power. It's the power of love, and it runs right through us all the time. I live in a land of unlimited potential. I give thanks. I give thanks to the Great One for always saying yes. You want more love in your life? Yes. You want more deeper connections? Yes. You want a greater generous spirit? Yes. I give thanks for that. For it all comes from the source. And when I'm connected, the correction will take care of itself. I give thanks for that. I release this word into the law, and together we say, and so it is.